Okay. Hey, Robin, how you doing?
Yeah, doing awesome. Doing awesome. Out here in Canada, just embracing it all.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, it's so fantastic that you are, having the opportunity to actually get into the field and really kind of apply the learnings from the program, which I'm really excited about to hear more about. But I mean, maybe before we dive into that, could you just give me a little bit of a background about you, kind of your journey in terms of before I met you on the program, and then yeah, just sort of some sense of like what your ambition is and where you want to go with your filming in time.
Sure. So I guess my initial background was in zoology, and more in the science side of things. And I guess within that, I specialized towards marine biology, actually publishing a short research article about white sharks in South Africa and their decline. Um, and I guess I always had an affinity for cameras and for storytelling and visual imagery. It was always kind of a hobby slash passion of mine, but I guess I never really saw it as a strong career path. I suppose I guess the science side seemed more on the stable end of that, or a more clear direction. And then even after I finished my studies, I then went to South Africa, and I was helping with some research in Sodwana Bay, and that's kind of where I got more into diving and free diving. Um, and then within that, and within kind of writing the paper that I wrote, I realized that as much as science is needed, and it's obviously very important and it underpins everything, I saw my role more in the storytelling vein and the imagery capturing vein, um, rather than the research writing and the stats and all of that. And I guess I kind of wanted to bridge that gap to communicate it to a wider audience in a more layman's term way than just the kind of ivory tower of scientific papers. Um, so that led me to kind of pursue routes into filmmaking. And I guess back then, I knew a little bit about composition and all of that, but I had really no idea and no confidence in terms of frame rates, cinematography principles, all of this kind of stuff. But I applied to a few film schools and I got into one, and everything kind of led from there. The good thing about the film school I was at, um, you get to make two films across 2 years. So you kind of learn some theory and some basic theory, but then you really have to go out there and experience it and do it and make all the mistakes and learn it in the field. Um, so I made a short film about blue sharks. Nikki Mehag actually was part of the film, which is cool. And then I made a film about kingfishers, which was much more natural history focused, a lot more technical, just capturing behavior, trying to cut sequences together. Um, and then that film did okay at some European film festivals, and that led to me being taken on as a kind of second camera for a German natural history production. Initially, that was just for 1 month or 2 months, focusing on some Philippine eagles and a little bit of underwater stuff. And then that grew, and I guess it needed me a little bit more and more, until middle of wave this year. And yeah, just trying to be proactive. I think that's when I joined your course around that time. And now, yeah, looking for more opportunities. You said aspirations for the future as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what I find quite interesting in some of our conversations earlier on, is there's a lot of opportunities out there, right? It's not just film and TV anymore, and traditional broadcast. And as much as I would love to be involved in that as much as possible, ideally, maybe one day in a junior camera operator capacity. Um, there's a lot of other opportunities out there. I'm doing this media specialist role now for Atlantic shark expeditions. Mainly, I'm just capturing tourist experiences, making photo and video packages for them, which is an interesting new challenge for me. A lot of learning out here, and then getting to kind of make some more social media stuff here and little documentary campaigns. So I guess the skill set that filmmaking and the craft and what we're learning here can give us can be applied to many different walks of life and different principles. And so I guess it's just spotting those opportunities as well.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's definitely been one of the the critical things of ocean leverage is it's I think there's never been a better time to explore the potential of what I mean you can call the small screen or but I mean
Mm.
I think so much so much of the world's attention is being absorbed by things like YouTube and I mean I certainly myself I spend a lot of time watching
Mhm.
shows that are made by individuals on YouTube that are incredibly informative. You learn a huge amount. So I think there's massive potential, and the skill sets that you develop in film school definitely translate into that particular kind of digital space.
Yeah, sure. And there's a lot of platforms like Waterbear out there, and the smaller ones, streaming
Yeah.
platforms, and just kind of Instagram building up, uh, yeah, kind of online personality, I suppose. It's still something I'm working on, and definitely this has pushed me to start figuring out that clarity a bit more on it and trying to organize that going forward. It's, I guess, not always easy to do in real time when everything's going on then and there when you're in the field, but or working in the background and I guess getting a finger on that pulse and getting that clarity and kind of what you want your message to be um, going out into the world is something that I guess we're all focusing on within this course, and that's helping us develop that, finding our
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah. So I mean, you came into the program, having already studied a sort of high end wildlife filmmaking degree. I mean, what did you find? You know, just give me some sense of what did you find kind of unique about the program? I mean, if anything, possibly you didn't, but
Sure.
what is your sort of just your overall impression of this program relative to a broader program? I mean, better and worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's given a lot of people a lot of different things. I mean, for me, I guess a lot of the cinematography stuff, I guess, like the framing and the composition and the frame rates, all that kind of stuff, I had an understanding of. But it's still good to kind of embrace that beginner mindset and pick up different things from everyone else. So I guess there's a few things. One is the strong sense of community, and that everyone is asking each other questions on there, um, and we're kind of pushing each other in that way. And just one person's approach to something um, can make a really big difference on how you approach it, right? And I guess what I thought of beforehand, um, maybe not, well, a little bit naively, I suppose, but I guess what we're all into, is the camera stuff. Um, and that is a big part of it, right? Those actual practical cinematography skills. Um, but it's also all those soft skills. It's also those other approaches. What you've been talking a lot about is systems, and I've been really trying to embrace that in the way I'm thinking and going about my methodology now. And I guess on the face of it, particularly in the Philippines, you might not see a difference, but it's a real big difference to how I feel and the confidence that I have going out there in the field. Um, and you gotta have that structure and that plan that you can kick the tires against. It's a really good kind of referral as to whether you're performing to where you need to be, or maybe the plan needs changing. Um, and yeah, no, just simple stuff, like with the Apple AirTags, the Peli cases, all of that prep beforehand. Even now, when I've just started this new job in Canada, the first few days was kind of getting to know the crew, gauging the skippers, where I can leave stuff on the boat, where I can't leave stuff on the boat, how to go about all of that. Um, by going to like Walmart, buying some Tupperwares and some like kind of plastic containers to waterproof the stuff on the boat, like just those prep phases, right? And um, it's something I guess I hadn't appreciated fully, but hearing yourself talk about it and seeing it in your little studio and picking up other people's working practices, obviously you'll develop your own style, but those things really feed into enabling the creativity further down the line. They open you up so that you're not in the moment, like just pointing and shooting a camera, or they're allowing you to just do the pointing and shooting um, instead of thinking about everything in the moment. Because even here, there's been days where the sharks turn up for less than a minute. I think there's we've seen a few great whites, and the first few times that's kind of what happened. We actually just had a crew day, so I was kind of trying some stuff out with my kit, but we got caught off guard. I was helping another guy out with his wetsuit and stuff and his mask and myself, and we didn't really get in the water in time, in the cage in time. And to be fair, it probably wouldn't have been there anyway. But then because of that teething process, a few days later, we were ready for it, and this blue shark came, and then it shot off, and then this white shark just turned up in the GoPro like full frame. And then we got in and filmed it for kind of 2 hours or so. I mean, it's different. We're trying to get the client experience as well as the wildlife shots here. But yeah, it's just always trying to refine the process, and that enables efficiency in the moment, right? And not being caught off guard. I guess it's always developing that. It never stops. There's every new scenario, every new team. You've got to find those dynamics again. But that's, I guess, part of it, and that's keeping it fresh.
On my recent trip to Lembe, I actually I broke one of my cardinal rules. I teach the systems check. So you prep the camera, and then you basically, you know, before you release it to be put on the boat, you turn everything on and you check your focus, your iris, whatever. And just the nature of the table made it difficult for me to take the dome off. So I didn't take the dome off. I did the checks, everything was good. Sent it, put on the rebreather, did the whole protocol, got in the water, went down, put it on the sticks, turned it on, and it was completely black. And I left the lens cap on. I'd actually left the lens cap on. So second time in my career that I've done that. And why did that happen? Because I didn't follow the exact strict protocol of taking the dome cover off. So yeah, it's you did right. I mean, what you're talking about is how you routinize and systematize, things so that you have the creative capacity to be alert to things happening in the environment and be able to respond quicker. And then also all of your mental capacity is actually on the job at hand. It's not worrying about, all the other stuff. So yeah.
And it's simple things, right? Like, so the nature of our cage, it doesn't lend itself well to my bigger rig, my Nauticam rig. Just for one, the nature of the work I'm doing here now is primarily capturing the tourist experience. So it's a little bit overkill. And secondly, just a bit impractical. So I got this new housing for a GoPro. It's like a AOI backscatter housing with kind of a wider angle lens on it. And in one sense, it's just a GoPro. It's like point and shoot. Like, can't get more basic, right? But then little things like when you do the valve check beforehand, it's really easy. The way the camera sits, like on tables and things, it's easy for it to knock the on switch on, and then you've lost like 50% of your battery before you're going in. And then the way the buttons work, it's not as I guess ergonomic as like Nauticam setup where everything's where you need it. You have to press through some buttons to get to where you need. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to put the time in to get familiar with that and know the strengths and weaknesses of your setup, so that you're not caught with your pants down, I guess, or lens cap situations on kind of thing. But it happens, right? So the system's really cool.
I mean that's the thing as well, is that especially it becomes very accentuated when you're on a shoot where your daily burn rate is tens, if not tens of thousands of pounds. The cost of you being there, of them putting you on the front line, able to capture that is extensive. So that's why I've always just been so big on be absolutely on top of what you can control, which enables you then to deal with the things you can't control, which in our game are pretty significant.
I mean, I guess it was similar with the Philippine crocodile shoot. I think that was the one I was kind of asking your advice on.
Can you just can I jump in there? Can you maybe just tell us a little bit about like just give us the context and what the mission was?
Okay. So, June, July last year, we were planning a Philippine crocodile shoot, primarily focused on kind of hatching and the baby crocs. So there was not really any underwater stuff at that time. I think partly because we didn't know that it was possible. The animals are very shy; they're endangered. You don't really see them that often, and I guess my bosses were focused on trying to set up camera traps to get the mama croc digging out
Yeah.
the the baby crocs. That didn't really ever happen, unfortunately, but we did find loads of baby crocs. So that was mostly long lens stuff. All of them just basking on this rock and chasing each other off. The bigger ones, slightly bigger ones, chasing each other off. But I was seeing a few images of them underwater and speaking with the guys on the ground. Like, it's saying it's definitely possible to get in there. They don't really. They're not known as an aggressive croc unless cornered, kind of thing. So I don't know. I wanted to push the envelope a little bit, and I thought it would enhance the scene. Like, if you have a crocodile sequence, kind of makes sense to get some underwater shots. So at the time, we just had some GoPros, and we managed to kind of release some baby ones over the GoPro, get a few perspectives like that. And then we found a few kind of juvenile crocs in some little tiny lairs, nothing like the lairs you were going into. But yeah, so I guess I had a burning ambition to potentially try and go back there and more properly do it. And so this year we went back to the location, I guess, to try and just, get the money shot, enhance the sequence with some underwater stuff. Still, like, logistically very challenging, right? It's a 5 to 8 hour drive in the middle of nowhere, crossing rivers, in a very basic camp setup, no Wi-Fi or anything like this. And then, generally speaking, I mean, sometimes the crocs are like 20 minutes from the camp, but they could also be a 2-3 hour hike. And unfortunately, we only had kind of 3 days as the schedule kind of allowed, which wasn't enough. It was too ambitious for what we were trying to do. But we did find a decent sized croc in this, in one little rock kind of beside a stream, under a kind of rock pile, and it happened to stay there for a good long time. It wasn't really the size that I think my bosses wanted. It was still on the smaller size, but I saw it as an opportunity to really get in there and try and get some shots. And yeah, like, the pressure's on. You've got all the stuff, all the kit with you, and you've hiked out there, and definitely made some mistakes with like kind of not changing cards when I did the battery changes. And obviously my camera setup doesn't have the pre-record. And the crocs move unpredictably, right? Like, they do nothing for 90% of the time, and then they move once or they move quickly. So you kind of just have to keep it rolling, but you can't do that so much when you know that you're approaching the card filled moment. And then, we kind of made the mistake when it was ready to leave. My boss wanted to get a wide shot as well, so he was kind of standing over here with a GoPro, and I was kind of here, and then the local guys were kind of here, and we effectively kind of made the mistake of it had a path through, but not big enough path through, so it led to a situation where it kind of had to go through us, and it wasn't necessarily dangerous as such, but it just meant that we ballsed up the shots. So yeah, practical things like that. But in terms of applying some of the principles here, at first you're kind of gauging that animal. What is it going to do? The very first time I was diving the smaller crocs, one of them we had for a while, but the other time I literally was free diving around looking for it. And then I found it, and I came back up to say it's here, and I went back down and it'd gone. So you don't know if it's going to be there forever, luckily this one stayed a long time. But at first you kind of hang back. What I quite like about the setup I have with the wide wet lens on the front is you kind of have like 4 shot sizes right there. You can be at your widest with the dome. You can zoom in with the dome, and then you can take the dome off and get the rectilinear shots. So that's quite versatile in these kind of situations. You're kind of tweaking the lights around because you need the lights in that cave, trying not to get too much of the backscatter. So yeah, it was a fun challenge. And then just trying to, frame up on like the feet, the eye, tail, detail shots, build up a kind of sequence because you don't know what you're going to get before it all then comes out. So yeah, I mean, the pressure was on. I guess I could have probably been a bit more efficient in the moment. While just ticking off once I got that shot, and then think more about stepping up, maybe focus more on letting it come out. But you just don't really know what it's going to do at the moment, right? So it's one of those experience lessons. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, like, we've got the decisive cine framework in the program, and then there's obviously sequence craft tests. I mean, to what degree did that? Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's tricky, but I mean, was there some sense in which those frameworks helped you kind of just feel more confident, or kind of, were there mistakes that you made? You know what I mean? Like, how did that, in a way, inform what you were doing on the croc?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the big one, right, was already thinking about. I mean, before the course, I had just a sea frog housing for the A7S, um, and that was fine for a lot of what we were doing, and it had the advantage of being pretty like foolproof. It could take a lot of knocks. It was cheap, relatively speaking. So in a lot of the situations where I wouldn't want to put more expensive rig, it did okay, but it had the limitations of the lack of it was just relying on autofocus. You actually can't even move the autofocus point in that housing.
Yeah,
So I guess a lot of what we chatted about, like monitoring solutions and all this stuff, is like it's a non-negotiable. You can't compromise on the quality. Um, and so I guess I researched some of the kit I needed and had this croc shoot in mind if it ever came up, and a few other shoots. So I guess one, it underpins already the equipment I took out into the field, and helped me make decisions on that. And then two, I suppose, optimizing it then and there, like thinking quite practically about how when you're going to set stuff up, how you're going to carry it. Um, yeah, just all that kind of stuff. And then in terms of the sequence craft, just that bipolar coverage of trying to get, well, the wide shots, the close-ups, the detail shots that you can use as cutaways, things leaving frame, crocodiles leaving frame, all of that kind of stuff. Because it's amazing what you can, like, actually, even in the spring watch thing, it's a bit of a different point, but the way it works is one of the things we really have to stay on top of is the bird fledging when the chicks leave the nest. That's like if you miss a whole
yeah,
nest, you've kind of messed up.
yeah.
And one of the nests we were filming were robin chicks, and I think we missed one of the chicks leave. Actually, I was kind of recording it, but we made a little mistake on. You have to already you have to press those record channels on. They're always recording, like for 12 hours straight. And if you haven't got that on, it doesn't matter what camera movements you're doing, it's not recorded. So we'd messed that up for the first chick, I think. But then the way you were filming it after that with close-ups and letting them leave frame or enter frame, the way they managed to edit it together, it kind of works, right? That all six left.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's, I guess, in one sense a little bit of a lie, but in the other sense it's the story, and it's and just capturing it, getting that coverage right. Um,
Yeah, and did you have any difficulty? What deters a lot of people from going in tight is because the frame is just so much more chaotic a lot of the time, especially when it's dynamic, right? So people have a tendency to kind of stay wide because they feel in control. I mean, did you experience that at all? Or I guess the crocodiles were generally not moving, but when they moved really fast.
yeah, I mean, I've definitely experienced it a lot, and I think it's something I've tried to ask you about before as well. Um, you want that coverage, you need all those different shot sizes, but maybe the when you switch those shot sizes is pretty crucial, right? And um, there are sometimes, like when we were focused on the Philippine eagle, particularly on the second half of that shoot, my role was just to get the flying out shot of the parents feeding the chick. So, and it didn't happen very often. The animal would turn up every 3 days or so on average, and it'd be there for 20 seconds, if that. So that was a point where just getting a shot was probably more crucial than getting that amazing close up flying, or at least getting that ticked first before focusing on those other shots. Like just get a shot. versus the crocodile. At first, I guess I still approached it kind of wide and was trying to gauge its behavior, whether it would shoot out, get disturbed. But I then saw, this is the moment to get the close up of the foot, get the close up of the head. And once I ticked all of those things off, and there's pretty much everything I could do inside that little lair, then it was about getting it out of the lair and swimming past. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to get your take on it, but I guess it depends on action shots. It's definitely, well, if the foot moves in the close up, that's a nice detail. If that leaves a frame, something like that, and that cuts well. But you just want to get that shot of the croc swim past the frame, right? Something like that. So I think I sent you one of the shots. It swam kind of towards me and then low down, and I was tempted, to zoom in because that would make it more efficient for when it swims back out of the frame and makes like two shots instead of one. But then, it could happen so quickly, and often when you do that zoom, you miss the shot. And it's a bit of a judgment call in the moment, right? In the end, I just held on. And I think it was the right thing to do because it did then go to leave straight away. And then I managed to follow it. I got a few other shots that would probably cut with that, focusing on the close-up. But yeah, so yeah, I guess there's no easy answer. I guess it's just a bit of experience and feel. But for sure, if all you've got is like a 2-minute long take of a wide, then that's kind of useless as well, right? So you have to, get that coverage.
Yeah, I mean you've covered it really well. I mean, I think it's the bipolar approach is just such a good thing to remember because if you know the situation is going to be quite short, you want to be flipping between those two quite quickly. And I think that's also really key. Is as soon as you feel like you've got one establishing master wide, then you want to, you don't want to keep trying to perfect that. You want to go in tight and then move back, and then hopefully you have enough time on subject to really craft each thing. But it's almost like if you have to snatch at a wide and a tight, snatch at a wide and a tight quite quickly, and then as your confidence grows and you feel like you've secured that, then you start being more and more risky with tighter moves and things like that. But
Yeah.
and I think that's the joy of our job. I mean, I love the fact that it's uncontrolled, right? Because when you
Yeah,
get it right, it's so much more satisfying, right? You can't just say to the crocodile, sorry, move back, I want to do that again, right?
for sure. Yeah, it gives you a real satisfaction with that.
It's a real
Similarly,
rush. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not underwater, but I guess I've had a lot of time filming kingfishers, right? And that's a real example. Sometimes you can't really adjust your position in the moment. You can reset once the bird's flown off, but you've got to get that wide, and then you've got to punch in, get that close up, and then maybe a mid shot, get that shot diversity very quickly. It's like 8 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, whatever it might be. And I guess if you're filming at slower frame rates, you don't need all that time. But like you say, once you've ticked that off, then you can wait for that moment that it's going to leave the frame or the other bird's going to attack it or whatever it is. Yeah, but for sure, you miss it sometimes. It's satisfying when you get it.
No, totally. Well, I mean, that's what makes it so satisfying, right? Is that you do miss it. I mean, how are you with your rushes? Do you also have that feeling where you watch and you're constantly thinking about what you could have done better or what you should have been doing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's something I probably also got to work on a little bit more. The nature of the way we were in the Philippines. Like one day, well, for 3 days straight, we'd be filming the crocs, but just before that, we were on a very different shoot, filming. We kind of had to film like a people documentary as well, kind of alongside, which was a little bit. It was an awesome experience, but I think a bit frustrating for my bosses because they wanted to be focused on the wildlife naturally. But so the day before, 2 days before, we were filming this 108-year-old tattoo artist and all of that. So there's just not a huge amount of time to go for everything in the moment, which is why I guess, to your point, is the organization side of things is even more critical, right? So I would do my best to watch it through and address things, but I also just have a good framework for like a spreadsheet, really detailing down what camera was used, the date, having a kind of structure there that was consistent, which SSD it was backed up on, or which SSDs it was backed up on, a few kind of camera notes, location stuff, so you can reference that back later. But yeah, in terms of watching it back through at the time, yeah, I don't know. I got a kind of double-edged sword on that. Like in one sense, it's good to always be hypercritical and focus on what you can do better next time. You have to, but in the other sense, that's how you did it in the moment, and you kind of have to take stock for that. And like sometimes, or more often, I think at the time I really messed it up. But you watch it back later, or you watch it back, and it's like, well, okay, you can see how that pieces with that it kind of worked together. So taking
Exactly. I
stock.
mean, exactly. I have the same sort of thing. I think it's just so fresh in your mind that you tend to focus on the things that you could have, that you could have, but it's so critical to review, right? Because that means then that if you do get another opportunity on the animal, you've covered that off, and you don't have to, you can really try and get that one specific shot. Um,
Yeah.
so, and then what was your experience? One of the things that I emphasize in the course a lot is, sure, you're the camera operator and you might have a director, but you need to manage up. You need to manage the people around you in a very subtle but very active way. I mean, did that resonate with you? I mean, is that something that you were sort of aware of or conscious of doing, or not so much?
Yeah, it's a hard one to answer, I guess, but definitely something I'm conscious of, and it was kind of very refreshing to hear someone such as yourself and people on this course with the experience they have having kind of similar experiences with that, right? Managing expectations. Everyone's got every team's different, and it's working out each other's strengths or weaknesses. Everyone else's expectations on you, and I think the big one, which maybe the nature of the way I was working with my bosses, they're kind of cinematographers as well, or they certainly love that side of it as much as they're wearing a director producer hat. Um, there was sometimes, I suppose, less communication, or everyone pitched in somewhere, which works well for some situations. But when it was more obvious I was doing it underwater, or everyone had a real clear understanding of their roles, I think it became much more efficient. It
Sure.
allowed even basic stuff like someone being able to be on the phone to ring up the crocodile people and work out, did the crocodile nests already leave or hatch. That's, I think, kind of how I see the producer's mindset is smoothing the waters, is pulling the strings, and then that facilitates the camera person to really focus on what they're doing, because you can't be on the phone planning stuff when you're in the hide, or when you're underwater for 6 hours and all that stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't have a one size fits all answer on that, but it's definitely something to be aware of, and particularly, like you say, in that starting phase is is asking a lot of questions, is just having conversation, is getting to know the people delicately, softly, um, and yeah, because everyone's got their own experience, right? But as you say, the punchline is that you need to come back with those cinematic images, right? And that's what I think I found very interesting in this course, is thinking about it in that way, of beyond just the camera skills and the technical skills, all of these other things feed into that, right? As
Yeah.
much as that's your responsibility, if a director is umming and ahhing about stuff, it's kind of on you to softly make a decision or facilitate, like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, or let's do it this, because at the end of the day, it's kind of on your head's on the chopping block if you don't get the shot in the moment. Um, but it's also, I guess, trying to embrace that as part of the experience and part of the learning, and see the fun side of that as well, instead of the tedious. Because they're just, like, in credit to my producers and directors on the Philippines shoot, they're working really hard, and they've got a lot of plates spinning. They've got to think about the edit. They've got to think about all of these things, their families, and you kind of want to be able to help them and alleviate some of that decision making on them as well, and all kind of pitch in together. Don't know if that made sense, but
No, I mean that's. I mean, you've nailed it. I mean, it's exactly that. It's right. It's like, it's work. It's building trust. It's helping. it's great, as you say, when people have a very clear idea and there's innate trust, like, okay, I just trust you to do your job and that sort of thing, and everyone knows their roles. But there's also a lot of benefit in conversation and a bit of conflict and a different opinion. It creates a richer dialogue, and I certainly in those situations have been driven to come up with a better solution, or I've tried something that I thought would never work and suddenly it works. It's great. And I think it's all about that. Don't take things personally. If someone's stressed or they're struggling with something, as you say, you sort of, you support and you help and you really work together as a team to solve all the problems, because that's really what a shoot is, right? It's just solving a whole series of problems,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be the problem, right? Like that's the key thing. You don't want to be a problem on a shoot. You want to, you know, you just don't want to do that. So yeah, I think it's a very, very important aspect of shooting craft is the soft skills around how you manage people and just get the best out of everyone, even though you're not necessarily in charge.
Yeah, and just understanding where people are coming from and their way of doing things and what they want done, right? Like you've probably got a lot more experience with this, but some producers, want the rushes labeled in a very specific, organized way, and then that approach might be very different for someone else or different to how you initially would go about it. And it's just setting off on the right foot, already kind of asking them what they want from you or what they're expecting from you in regards to those simple things. And then I think that starts building that trust, right? Because as well, like when you hit the ground, maybe you're working with a new team and, no one knows each other necessarily. Like you're the guy or you've been put there as the guy, but they're still going to have that doubt in their mind because the pressure's on to get that shot, to get that sequence. And they're going to be like, are you going to do this? Can you do blah, blah, blah? And kind of the trust goes both ways, but you have to kind of reassure the person and extend that out.
Yeah. No, it's a very dynamic. It's a very dynamic craft, and it requires a lot of processing, and that's why again, when just being on top of your game and being fully prepared, knowing what you want to do, it just frees you up to manage all those other variables that you have to deal with on the fly. Um, so what's in terms of you going forward, what is your kind of what does the next couple of years look like? I mean, obviously
Okay.
it's a way out, but I mean, what is your sort of you mentioned earlier about, there's so many different opportunities in the industry and that sort of thing. Clearly, you'd like to, move towards shooting some blue chip and, moving into that kind of role as well. But, just give me some thoughts for kind of how the rest of or the next couple of years look like.
Yeah, I guess this is another thing within this course. It's definitely giving me more of a conviction and just feeling grounding that this underwater space and doing this kind of work is what I want to do beyond the wider sense, more where I want to nicheify or specialize. I guess right now I'm here until the end of October, so I'm just relishing this role. Um, and yeah, it's interesting. Like we were saying earlier, a lot of it applies, but ostensibly, what my job is here is not a wildlife camera operator as such. I've got to capture the tourist experience, both photographs and images, sorry, and video, and then some shots of the sharks only, but also shots of sharks swimming past their face and throwing shackles and stuff underwater. So I guess I'm just viewing this also as a chance and I'm on a boat a lot now, right, as well, part of a different crew, getting familiar with the operations of that, filling in here, getting more efficient. So I'm just kind of enjoying being part of that process and that crew, developing some pole cams for my bigger rigs and some monitor solutions so I can kind of point the camera in the right place underwater without necessarily getting in. It's always fun to get in with the sharks, or at least some of the smaller ones, like the blues, but maybe not the 15-foot great white when it's come here. Maybe you have different thoughts on that.
Well, in
Yes,
dirty water, it's never a good idea. So, like, never.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's there. I mean, I know it's chummed and we've got that fish head, so the energy level just seems a little bit higher on even the blue sharks.
Mm.
But yeah, so I guess I'm just really trying to work here to the best of my ability right now, and treat this all as learning and opportunities. And yeah, I guess I've more slowed down in a more philosophical sense, trying to enjoy the process more so. I guess when I left the film school a few years back, it was kind of as the industry was declining a little bit, and it really felt like if I don't get my foot in the door now, am I ever going to do it? But now opportunities have come their way here and there, and yeah, I'm just trying to embrace the process of it as it comes and treat everything as a learning, so that if and when those opportunities come, I'm ready for them more. But more practically, I suppose I'm here till October. Um, what I think need to work on is getting a lot more time underwater with new people, new skills, developing the diving side. Um, so I think probably the start of next year, it's going to be my main focus, is doing a lot more diving and free diving, maybe some qualifications, but just a lot of experience, getting more time in and underwater in different scenarios. Um, and then yeah, I guess that's the main aspiration, and then just the networking side as well. So I'm doing that a little bit here and there, when I'm back in Bristol, back in the UK, but it's definitely something I could be more proactive about, and kind of in the background, just sending more emails and just developing that clarity, that focus on my social media presence, gearing it up a lot more to the underwater realm, the show reel. Um, so yeah, that's my game plan the next year or two,
Okay,
and just kind
brilliant.
of
Yeah, I mean, it's
the game a bit more, right? Just trying to enjoy the process and not take it all so seriously. As much as you do have to have you've got to be professional, and definitely take things seriously in the moment. Also, kind of appreciate that there's more to life, and it's coming together.
no, yeah. I mean, I'm really enjoying what you're saying. It's resonating strongly with me. That I think I wrote a post back around, like enjoy your apprenticeship, because it's such, I mean, essentially you're doing the hard yards now. You're doing that period of like, laying the foundation, creating the viability for your career as a sort of high-end DOP. And it does take time. It took me 7 years. I mean, during that time, I was doing very similar things to you. I was shooting events in the evening, doing a lot of stills work, couldn't afford a camera, but you're building relationships, you're building networks, and you're proving that that you're ready and that you're committed and that you're hungry, and your time definitely comes. So, and I really like your attitude. I think that notion of just being philosophical and embracing, the learnings from that moment, because it's recursive, right? Like the skill sets that you're learning there will totally transfer into a blue chip set. It's exactly the same thing. You're solving problems. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really
Yeah,
good attitude to have.
I
So
think I saw on your LinkedIn, with the kind of if you want to train for the Arctic or whatever, you can do it right here, right now, at home, and
yeah,
being ready for those moments when they come. I suppose, yeah,
yeah.
is the focus.
Yeah, I mean that's it. You don't have to, that's exactly it. You can develop so much viability in a local environment or in a given situation. I mean, even just learning how to manage your triggers, for example. If you like deliberately go and spend time with people who really annoy you, and just train yourself not to get wound up. I mean, that's such a great life skill, right? So
Yeah,
you can do that. You can do that with your neighbors potentially. It's a
yeah,
good opportunity for that.
lots of that for sure. Um,
No, for sure.
yeah,
No, awesome, Robin. Well, I really appreciate you chatting with me, and yeah, I'm really, really impressed with the way that tackling things, taking things from the program, applying them. Yeah, it's super, super rewarding for me. And yeah, again, thanks so much for just taking that bold action of like, I just remember very clearly you were very decisive, found out about the program, and you were like, I'm in. So yeah, really appreciate that, and still a long way to go. A lot of more learnings, and yeah, excited to see how things progress for you.
oh, for sure. Thanks, Roger. I don't know where are you going next. What's next on the cards for you?
Well, I'm actually just going to focus on the rest of this year. I want to focus on the curriculum, on the course, and evolving that. I've also got to start putting my money where my mouth is in terms of creating a YouTube channel and building all of those sort of things. So I've pretty much blocked out the next 6 months with Alan just to totally focus on delivering all of that kind of ocean leverage wisdom.
Yeah.
Um, I turned down a shoot. Yeah, the problem with shoots is you're gone, right? Like you totally focused on that. So, yeah, that's really my goal for the rest of this year. And then, yeah, a couple of things on the horizon for next year, but yeah, we'll see.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah.
Uh,
Thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
no, no, awesome. Appreciate the feedback. And yeah, well done. Keep cracking on.
Yeah.
We'll chat
Speak
soon.
soon. Is the course is the Q and A's again now up and running?
Yeah, so we're going to announce that. I'm just sort of looking at how we're going to roll those out, but we've got. I've kind of opened the course up now for rather than running. The problem with the cohort thing is that a lot of people are away. Like new people are coming on or they're away for that period. So, kind of moving more now to a model where you can sign up at any time, but then we have kind of themed Q&As during the week. So it'll be a
Cool.
combination of people joining up. And then I'm also toying with doing things like um, I mean, I need to get more feedback from you as well, or from everyone around what kind of things we need to work on. But I'm thinking of doing things like you know, a 30-day portfolio sprint where we have every day you've got to work on like refining your portfolio. So it's
Cool.
something that you can kind of sign up for when you've got time, and then you announce to the community that you're going to be working your portfolio, and then there's like a facilitated process to do that, and then you deliver it at the end. So it's not so much about giving you a lot of the training; it's about driving accountability and facilitation in terms of putting things into practice.
Yeah.
So
It's great.
it's those kind of things which, because the learnings are there, but it's like you need to apply them, right? And that's when you really start learning. So yeah, I think we're going to start,
You do.
implementing some of those sort of scenarios as
You
well.
need that, right? Like that. I know we're stopping now, but like there's the theory, right, and there's the experience. It's like
Oh,
that
big time.
um, philosophical thing of there's this girl locked in a black room, right, and she has a laptop, and the laptop tells her everything about color, and she knows any and everything possible to know about
Mm,
color, but she's never seen color,
mm,
right? And it's like you can know everything, watch all the YouTube, which there are great assets out there about frame rates, etc., whatever. But until you're having to make that decision, or until you've
yeah,
fumbled around with the pole cam and missed the white shark,
exactly.
um, you don't know what it really means or
It's
feels like.
It's
So
so true because it's like, I mean, and that's something I'm very aware of as well, is that like until you've been on the shot, like when you're an assistant, you're with these, highly skilled people, but you miss so much because you don't see the small things they're doing. It's only when you've tried it and you've failed, and then you start to see all those little small things they're doing, which prevents them from
yeah,
failing. So
you can
yeah,
almost think,
like
oh, they're so rubbish at what they do. I could do a better job, and then you go to
yeah,
do
yeah,
the
yeah,
job,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, actually, they're not so bad. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's nothing like that. Like my ex-wife used to say, talk is cheap, money buys the whiskey. At the end of the day, it's the results that count, and I think that's something I really want to start driving, more on. Is building those kind of things. Obviously, we can't do it all together, but we can do it asynchronously. But then we can all share in that person's kind of attempts and efforts. So yeah, I'm very excited about having the time now to really focus on sort of taking it up to another level.
that's amazing. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, you gotta get on, so could stay and chat all day.
Awesome, Robin. No, I really appreciate your time, and it's really good to chat with you. And yeah, we'll be chatting again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Roger. All the best. So I
Okay.
just leave now
Excellent.
and leave the laptop running. Yeah.
Yeah, just leave it running so it can upload.
Okay.
Awesome, Robin. Thanks so much, man. Chat soon. Cheers. Bye.